Good evening, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to another episode of High Top Sports. My name is Shelton Pete Walker, and in the studio this afternoon, we got the main man, Swolderquist, and a special guest, Miss Allie Peak. Welcome to the show, Allie. Happy to have you. Thank you for coming on with us doofuses.
Thanks for having me, guys. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Welcome to the show. Swolder, how you doing, big guy? Good to see you, man.
Doing good, man. You know, it's the best day of the week, as we say every week, and let's get it. Let's go.
It is the best day of the week for the hottest podcast on Wednesday, baby, so let's get it. We've got a jam-packed show for you guys today. Some injury updates with Zippa and Micah. To put the two names together. We're going to talk about QB pressers and the competition that's going on right now. Billy Ballsack spoke about that a little bit yesterday. We're going to give our thoughts and opinion on what we expect for the future. Talk about scrimmage. Obviously, you know, David always has his notes. Talk about that a little bit. And then some Cruton talk. Cruton's getting heating up, boys and girls. It's moving and grooving. It's exciting. It feels, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys, if it feels a little bit warmer than last year, and I feel like we've got a lot more lines in the water, as Ali mentioned in precast, in the water this time than we did last year. We on the same boat with that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Totally agree.
I love it. I love it. So talk about injury update. First thing, obviously, with Mike Mazuka, which was spoke about yesterday, and Billy spoke to that on, hey, here's what happened, came up with an injury, obviously had a reaction to that. He tweeted that out, right, saying, deuces, Billy, I'm going to the portal, then deleted it. He said yesterday, look, 15 years ago, if this happens, nobody even knows about it, right? So it's a reaction. He thinks his season's done. It's a lot of work. I mean, he's probably grinding right now. My understanding, I'm sure who the starter's going to be is probably not as much of as a shoe-in as he may have been hoping, which is good news for us. We should be excited for that. And now he has to take a massive step back and feels like there's no way I'm going to be able to keep up with these guys. Because I think that the return timetable for him is early. It's by end of spring ball, probably summer ball. Do we have an update from either Allie or Dave? Do you guys have any thoughts on that?
I think
ladies first.
I think they said fall, right? That he would be back in time for fall. So I mean, I would assume that means he's rehabbing it over the summer, and he'll probably be there for 2-a-days. At least that's the way I took that.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure. I thought they said spring, so I was confused. And I was like, I think maybe I must have heard him. So okay, so back by fall, week 1, week 2. So again, but it kind of makes sense. Like, hey, that's why I want to leave, because now I'm going to lose an entire summer of training, and I don't want to just sit here and watch football or watch film all day.
I mean, these are teenage or early 20s kids, right? Like, they're emotional, they're upset, they pour their whole life into this. Something bad happens, you feel like it's the end of the world. This has happened as long as college football has existed, right? We just only hear about it because social media is 24/7 now, and everybody gets to share their thoughts and whatever instantly, right? Like, there's, sure. I find it hard to believe there's a guy that has played football for Florida probably in the last 20 years that hasn't at one point thought of transferring at one moment or another. We just don't know about it. So I kind of think this is a hats off to Billy for using it as a teachable moment instead of like, oh, okay, you want to see the door? Here's the door. There you go. I applaud him for the way that he handled this, because it's not the end of the world, right? But teaching him that it's not the end of the world and being the adult in the room is what we need from a coach that's trying to change a culture.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, when a kid gets injured, it's a very frustrating thing for a kid. I mean, you want to play football, you want to get out there on the field. But as Allie said, like, Billy Napier taking the approach of not just saying, well, you can get on the bus and go somewhere else, or you can go somewhere else. He's actually sitting there and he's trying to give the kid, you know, he talks about how important these kids are when he brings them to the University of Florida and giving them not even really a second chance, I guess. It's more of like it, I can't even put it into words, but like he doesn't necessarily like just say, okay, get out of here. Like he's giving Micah, and you hear Micah, you know, take the tweet down. I mean, at least the tweet was deleted. He didn't keep it up, right? And you see it. I mean, even what was it the other night? Will Norman posted something with a peace sign, but we don't know what that means. That could have been on accident. It was deleted immediately.
Definitely girl troubles.
Well,
sure.
it's the thing of social media now is everything is instant. Like you can express your feelings on social media now, which is before you couldn't. So now it's easier for kids to just pick up a phone, say something, and I'm pretty sure this happens not even just here, everywhere else. I mean, you've got
For
other
sure.
universities that probably deal with these problems as well. I didn't look too much into it when it happened, especially after the tweet was deleted. But as I said, Billy Napier cares about every kid that he brings to the University of Florida, and you've heard him talk about it in press conference. He's like, you know, I don't just sit here and recruit kids just to bring them in and fill roster spots. I mean, these kids are, you know, mentally focused. They're physically prepared. They're going to be dominant here at the University of Florida. That's his attitude. So I kind of like how he handled the situation too. Things are going to happen, man. Not everything's peaches and cream every day, and kids are just going to be kids.
That's the big thing I think we always forget because, again, we watch them. They're on national TV. They're not the size of kids. They're the size of grown men. I've sat next to all of them. I am a kid next to all of them. And so that we forget they're 18-year-old kids. I can assure you, it wasn't too long ago that I'm still a kid. We act like dumbasses. I do dumb stuff all the time. I tweet dumb stuff. I react even now. So these guys have to grow up very quickly. And everyone's going to say, well, it's their responsibility. They're supposed to. You're right. That doesn't mean that they're going to. There's 45-year-old men that still act like children. And so, look, I think you nailed it on the head with that. Really quick. We got a couple, a gifted membership here. Wow. A couple good stuff here. Freckled gifted 10 memberships. Freckle Baz, 92. Good to see you, man. Thank you for the support. Appreciate the love, man. And then also Dominic, $5, says, how's it going? And Billy, we trust. Go Gators. Go High Tops. Love y'all. Keep it up. Spring ball is here. About dang time. Keep it up. Let's go. And Al, you're getting a lot of love as well, too, in the chat, saying excited to see you. They've been wanting you to come on the show for a while now. So all in all, good stuff. Everyone's excited to be here. Love it. And the next thing we have is Keon Zipperer. So we were actually talking precast because this is his 5th year. He is injured. He's going to be out for a while. But the way Billy was speaking is that, look, he's not going anywhere. And so can you elaborate on that a little bit, Allie?
Yeah, so from my understanding, it's knee, and I believe he had a previous knee injury. And the way that NCAA works is that, like, if you've had an injury to the same area of the body more than once, you can be eligible for a medical red shirt. So my assumption here, and this is not inside information, this is just taking from what he said at the press conference. My assumption here is that they are going to apply and think they will get a medical red shirt for this injury, which is what would give him another year of eligibility.
I love hearing that. We're all big fans of Zip on here. Him and I have a date to play Madden. We were talking some smack back and forth in the DMs.
We might have some time now.
Yeah, well, so he said, look, he's like, I'm kind of dealing with, the injury. It's hard for me to sit in my gaming chair now. I think he got a little cold feet. That's all that I'm saying. Now, it was my fault because I don't have the system to play with it right now. I have to get the PS5. So, we'll get him on here. But yeah, that's great to hear that he's going to be back for next year. And I think what we're looking forward towards next year is very exciting. And the team that's being built, which we're going to get into a little bit later on, is exciting. And another super chat from my man, West Day. Showing some love here. $10. Awesome. Good stuff, man. It says, hey, everyone. Love your content. I bleed orange and blue, and I appreciate what all of you are doing. It gets me through until game time, baby. Go freaking Gators. So I think that goes for across the board there. So I love it. Appreciate the support, man. Good stuff.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. Moving on. So the QB pressure. This has been a hot topic of discussion. The fan base on Twitter has been going absolutely berserk. As myself, I'm here for it. Maximus Prime. I'm gonna keep saying it just because it's fun. I mean, he's got, in my opinion, the best nickname out of the three. Miller Time was cool when it was just Miller Time, but I think he's third on the list now for nicknames. Mertz, or what was it? Heismertz? I'll give him a second place for nicknames.
There you go.
We got a lot of them here, Allie. We kind of we throw it around. We got Billy Ballsack, G Wagon. Big Cock Hawk. That one's mine. That's a personal favorite. They're all mine. But let's talk about the pressers a little bit. They all looked very cool, calm, collected. It seems like a brotherhood, which is really cool to see. But what's our thoughts? I mean, Billy even came out and said, yeah, it's a competition. I mean, and obviously that video of Max Brown throwing to Aiden Mazzell is just zooming through Twitter right now has got everybody in a frenzy. So, Dave, I'll let you go first this time and tell me what you're thinking and how you're feeling about everything.
I mean, yeah, it's good to have quarterback competition, especially, when you go back to last year, you heard Billy Napier talk about, Max Brown, he's going through a learning curve and not quite there yet. And then you segue into this year and you're hearing a lot more better things about Max Brown. And he's actually, I think, and personally, and I think Nick even said it on one of the boards, I think he's like leaps and bounds better this year. And he's starting to make plays. And obviously, you see the one that Aiden Mazzell there online, and that's what you want. You want a good, healthy quarterback competition out there because that's going to bring out the best in Jack Miller. It's going to bring out the best in Graham Mertz along with Max Brown, and that's basically, I mean, really what you want is a good quarterback competition all the way to the end. And of course, Billy's probably won't name a starting quarterback until the start of the season. That's usually what most coaches do, or probably maybe a month or so out, or a couple of weeks out, or something like that. But it's good, healthy competition. I'm here for it.
Allie?
I mean, I can't imagine that they name a starter this spring just because all three of them are so new to this role. I also don't know that I really see, like, Mertz has got to think that he's the guy. I don't know that he comes here from Wisconsin, or he would have gone elsewhere even if he left with Wisconsin, if he didn't think he had a pretty good shot at earning the starting job. But if you're Billy, it's probably advantageous to wait as long as possible to name a starter so that somebody doesn't jump in the portal, right? Your quarterback room is so small already that I don't really think there's anything advantageous about letting a guy know that it's not his job with time to go elsewhere,
And we were talking precast too. Last year this time it was talk who's going to be the guy. Right? Who's going to be the Dark Knight? We were making predictions of who we thought it was going to be. Emory Jones was still there when we were doing this as well, too. Miller was my Dark Knight. Obviously, that failed miserably. Spring ball comes. It was pretty clear who the guy was. It was Anthony Richardson without a doubt, right? So we go into summer ball knowing, even though Billy, I don't think he really announced it, everybody knew who the guy was. And then you started seeing practices who the guy was. You saw Billy nurturing. Our question precast was, okay, we go to spring ball. Two things can happen. One guy takes over and yep, he's going to be the guy. Or it's really close and we're like, we have no idea. It then raises the question, if one guy takes over, no matter who it is that exciting or a little nerve-wracking, right? Is it exciting in the sense of okay, we got our guy, it's cool, but it's also a little nerve-wracking. It's is everyone else just that poor and Maxey did take it over? Or if everyone is kind of even keel, is it the talent just that good and everyone's really finding their stride, or is it mid? Right? Where that, unfortunately, I preface this that way because that's where Florida minds are going to go. I don't see it being a positive outcome either way, which is unfortunate. What are your thoughts on that? How do we think this plays out for Florida in the spring ball? Allie?
Okay, so I think that it's pretty much terrifying all the way until the season starts, no matter which way we go here. Okay. And I mean, I guess maybe if, Miller or Brown wins the job, then maybe we can say, okay, we at least know a little bit about what Mertz can do because there's some film on him. So if he's better than that, then we know that we kind of know where the floor is. But if it's Mertz that's named as a starter, the floor could be really low for Florida because he didn't have that great of production at Wisconsin. I am guessing we're going to not know until we go right into the season. And that is exciting, but also terrifying because how the quarterback goes, the rest of the team goes, right? So there's just so many question marks at the quarterback position that I think we're going to be stressing about this for a really long time.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave?
Yeah, that spring game coming up April 13th, man, is going to tell a lot of things. I guess for folks that can't go to these practices, can't really see the scrimmages and all the other kind of stuff, you're going to get to see it full force in front of you April 13th. And also, you go back to Mertz at Wisconsin. He didn't have the best offensive line. We all know that. Probably not the best receivers either. Transfers here to Florida is going to have a better offensive line. Definitely better receivers than Wisconsin. Can he put it all together behind an offensive line and behind better pieces around him?
Too.
Yeah, and running backs. Yeah, so he's going to have a lot of help from those guys, too. Montreal Johnson, Trevor Etienne, two monster studs, and then you got Cameron Carroll and Trayon Webb right behind him there, too. Maybe Mertz, maybe he's better than what we think. We brought up those statistics from PFF the other day where, you count drop passes from the receivers and all that. His completion rating was a little bit above 60. Not much better than, I guess, what was it, 58 or 59 at Wisconsin. But You're gonna see. I mean, we're gonna see really who can separate the men from the boys in the quarterback room. And Jack Miller, you look at him; he was thrown in the fire there against Oregon State. Osiris Torrance missing, him getting pretty much pressured every play when he got the football snapped to him. So really, I don't think he was put in that great of a situation though either. So I kind of like it, man. Like I kind of like hearing that every quarterback's making plays. You see it on the films that they release out there on Twitter, and we might have a quarterback competition, like they say. So, as I said, man, you put some new pieces in front of somebody, it can really change.
I think we'll move on after this. The difference from last year was it felt like it was always Anthony's job to lose, and it felt like if Billy doesn't go with Anthony, it's going to be an uproar. So it was like Billy never really had a choice. There was never really a competition, as much as we want to say there wasn't. And I think Miller knew that too, which is fine. This year, I think everybody knows it's wide open. And now it's Billy's team. There isn't this transition period happening. So, like you said, I don't think we're going to know until the beginning of the season because Billy's going to keep that on lock and say, look, this thing is wide open. Who's going to show me that they're going to take over this team? The one thing that, again, we're seeing all these highlights from Maximus Prime and how great he's doing. The one difference between the other two is he's never played in a game. And so do you go into Utah with everything on him? That scares the living shit out of me. As great as he sounds and all the hype's behind him, I do like the fact that Mertz has played. He's got a ton of experience. So if anything, you just put that guy in there. Just don't screw up. You know what I mean? Like that's it. Go ahead.
And that's kind of the other point, though, right? Like, does Florida really need a quarterback that can win games? Because I almost think with the offensive line that we know that Florida is going to have and the running backs that we know Florida is going to have, that we essentially need a quarterback that isn't going to lose the game. We don't actually need a quarterback that's going to win the game.
We need a Jimmy Garoppolo,
right,
like to call him. Game manager, comes in, just does what he's supposed to do, keeps it in bounds, doesn't make any mistakes. I don't need 400 yards passing. You give me 250. Give me a 75-plus completion rate, no interceptions, and Montreal and Etienne got 600 yards rushing between the two of them. It's an easy day, baby.
Well, I certainly hope that happens.
What's that?
Right. Easy 600 yards rushing, huh?
Just put me in, coach. Whatever you need from me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and to even add to that, Billy Napier alluded to bringing in another quarterback in the spring portal period, too, so you don't even know what's going to go on with that.
Too, right? Like they need the bodies. Just God forbid something happen. I think that they need more bodies in the quarterback room.
Look at last year. Yep. Just drop them like flies. Whether it was getting hurt off the field in the shenanigans, we can't keep these guys in order. So we need bodies lined up for that.
I'll say this. Yeah. Let's hope we just need a quarterback to manage the game with the running backs.
Yeah, that's a good prop. That's a good problem to have. Before we move on to the next topic, really quick, I got to give a huge shout out. North Florida White Trash, who's been a fan forever. He's been 7 months. He celebrates 7 months of membership. Buddy, I missed the hell out of you, man. Says, it's been a while since you caught a live show. I thought you broke up with us. So I got to just take a minute and say that I'm glad that you're back. Missed the hell out of you. Didn't miss your dirty chats, but I did miss you, man. I really thought you moved on. So glad to see you here. Appreciate the love. And then we got one more super chat. F Fanatic says, Eugene Wilson is grinding also, just not at UF yet. Eugene Wilson, the videos of him have everybody fired up too, just doing work. Buddy looks explosive, man. It's crazy. All the noise coming out of the wide receiver room, and this man ain't even hit the field yet. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, you see his speed, his quick cuts, and his vertical. Have you seen his vertical for like how tall he is? It's insane, dude. Like he can jump really high for, I think he's like 5'11". And he can jump like Michael Jordan, dude.
Yeah, I saw him jump over that workout net, and I was like, my goodness, dude. One of the videos that's been surfacing here lately.
Yeah, he also did that in a 7-on-7, I believe, like last year too. And I was just like, holy crap,
somebody?
This kid. Yeah, he did.
You guys are showing a lot of love tonight, man. I really appreciate it. Big Shot Ben says, I got this tingly feeling this year, just like I got with Will Greer. Oh, R.I.P. Tingly feeling and that little strip of skin called the taint. Very good vibes.
Oh my God, there's a lady on this show, guys.
I love it. She's all about it. She's a Gator fan. She knows what's up. She's prepared. And she knew a little bit. I know I said she watched a little bit of the show. She was prepared for what was to come.
Okay, good.
And then $10 from man Freckled after donating some subs here, man, says I'm out of the loop. Now have Napier second year guys look so far. Thanks. How have they looked so far? I think that's kind of what we're going to get into here now with Scrimmage Notes, a great transition. We're going to pass it over to Mr. Swolderquist here. Talk about it, man. Obviously, first scrimmage was it yesterday? It was yesterday. A lot of hype playing, obviously, in the stadium. And the big thing that they talked about yesterday is kind of taking the training wheels off, right? Allowing these guys to play on the field, not having the coaches holding their hand, letting them see how they communicate with everybody. That was kind of a big takeaway for me. Is something we don't think about as, fans, of how much of a difference practicing each day to playing a scrimmage. If it's the first time you're on your own, how are you going to react? How the temptations, getting frustrated, getting pissed off. You're getting burned, right? When everybody's out there watching, you're getting burned on the practice field, but it's a little different when you're in the field. Emotions might start to rile up a little bit. So what you got for us, Waterquist?
I've been hanging out.
Yeah, these come straight from the Gator Collective message boards. They're not the detailed versions. They're not all of them because you have to pay to get the rest of them. And I had permission from Jen to share some of these, not all of them. So I will say Jakeem Jackson still getting a lot of play. He's still making plays. Khalil Jackson actually had a nice touchdown from Jack Miller. Max Brown hit Aiden Mazzell, that video that we saw out there on Twitter. Caleb Douglas looking pretty good there as well. Marcus Burke caught a slant that went about 80 yards. I think they tackled him there at the 1 yard line. Arliss Boardingham still looks very, very good. Always getting open out there. He's been hearing a lot of Arliss Boardingham in these scrimmages. Now, well, I guess it's one scrimmage, but the practices beforehand. Montrell Johnson had a 50-plus yard run once again. He's had an explosive run just about every time they've been out there on the field. Desmond Watson made some plays as well. Stonewall, the guy at the line of scrimmage. And Shamar James, Jalen Kimber also had good days there. I know Allie, she may have more notes, and if she wants to add to this, she can.
Yeah, so I heard that basically the star of the show was the D line, but that the offensive line, the new size is super impressive. That's something that you guys have probably talked about the last couple of weeks. I know I've talked about that. From a depth standpoint, the offensive line is in such a better position than it was. I heard Justice Boone, who's playing an edge position, looked really good. Jason Marshall Jr. is another person that has been getting rave reviews, the cornerback position, and then Shamar James. And I did hear in general that the linebackers as a whole looked really good, and that's something I think Gator fans are really going to want to hear because linebackers were pretty terrible last year. Yeah. In general. So if there's some good improvement there, that, that is a positive sign. But I think, the most important thing to keep in mind with scrimmages and spring practice in general is that these guys aren't game ready yet. That's not the purpose of spring. The purpose of spring is to see how everybody gels, how they work together, kind of test guys out in different positions. The positions they're playing right now may not even be the positions that we see them in for fall camp and moving forward. But spring is really like a teachable moment, right? And so I do think that if you don't hear amazing reviews out of spring scrimmages, that isn't something that Gator fans need to freak out about.
Interesting to note too, again, a lot of praise from the defense, but Dave just ripped off a ton of great offensive stats too. So you always ask the question, who's sucking, right? Is it the defense? Is it the offense? But it's good to see, honestly, both parts having success. You would expect that. It's gonna happen. But I love hearing Montrell breaking off for 80-yard runs. I think we see what he does against a great defense. It lets us know that, hey, that O-line's working. I think if you had to say, hey, the D-line's coming in with a little more beef to it, the O-line had a little bit more of a reset. So if Montrell's breaking off 50-yard tackles, he's either running really well or he's being blocked very well or a little bit of both. So I think that's great to hear. I think it's exciting. Like you said, it's hard they're not game ready. I think that's something to really to hone in on look, these guys kind of been off for a little bit. They're in shape, but not necessarily game ready, which is a lot different. So real quick, we got almost 200 people in here. So love it on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of March. Well, I guess it's the end of March now, which is fantastic. So if you guys are hanging out, make sure you guys like, subscribe, and show some love. Really appreciate that. Anything else, Waterquist?
I was just going to say, you also got to think that you don't know who they're up against most of the time, unless you see the video on Twitter. But you don't know who they're up against, and they're playing against themselves. So you can either be like a glass half empty or a glass half full kind of guy. It just depends on who you are.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good point. You do not know who they're up against. Could be fourth string. So, or the other way around. Moving on to some Cruton news. I mean, the Cruton for Florida right now seems really, really exciting. And something that I prefaced before the cast, and Allie made a good point. I'll pass it to you in just a minute, Allie. It seems like guys are coming in by the busloads, just visiting every weekend. And my Twitter was exploding. Like, I'll be in Gainesville Saturday. I'll be in Gainesville Saturday. I'll be in Gainesville Saturday. Just got an offer from Florida. These are 2024 guys and top tier guys. And obviously DJ's recruiting like a beast, which we'll get into in just a minute. But I was like, where it feels again a lot more than last year. What is the transition from last year to this year on why do we think the volume of just visits have increased tremendously?
Well, I mean, I think as we talked about beforehand, a lot of lines in the water. You don't know who's going to pop, but you want to be in the conversation for everybody. And I think last year, Florida was maybe in the conversation top 10 or even maybe top 5 for some of these guys. But then when it goes down to their commitment ceremony and there's 3 hats on the table, Florida's not one of them, right? And I think that they've kind of made that step to where they are going to be one of those 3 hats on the table for a lot of guys. And the next step from there, obviously, is beating head to head the Alabamas, the Georgias, guys like that. You do have to win battles in state. I think you've got to win head to heads with Florida State and Miami. You've got to keep guys here. But what we were talking about before the show is that there is some value in coming in second place now in recruiting. And in the past, that was not something that existed. But because people are moving around so much in the transfer portal, it's important to make really good relationships and strong impressions on guys who won't pick you first, right, out of high school. Because if they are unhappy, if they sit the bench where they thought they were going to play, if a new coach comes in and they don't fit the scheme anymore, they're going to remember the relationship that they created at Florida and go back to that when they do enter the portal. So it's, you referenced a dating show when we were talking before. It's the same kind of concept, right? Like you don't want to burn any bridges. You want all of these relationships to be kind of nurtured because you never know when they're going to come back into play.
Yeah, I compared it to Love is Blind. I appreciate you not completely embarrassing me there, but it's like, Love is Blind. You have multiple relationships locked up, and if one falls short, you're able to just hop into the room and go, "Hey, babe, what's up?" and keep it moving. So that's a solid point. Again, we saw with Texas A&M how many of those top recruits obviously went to A&M, and the next year they're in the portal. So it's like, who was flirting with me all the way up until they could? That's who they're going to remember the most coming back into the portal. Now, will that team still won't be having interest in them? Who knows? But it's at least having that line in the water for them, so you can go back to that relationship pretty easily than if you weren't going after them. So I love it. And I think, again, it just by elimination, right? The more people that you go after, the more chances your hat lands on the table. And then eventually more of those hats will end up on those kids' head. And here we are. I will say, too, though, there's still some top guys who were not even on their top 12, top 15, top 10. And I used to kind of get worked up about it, but because if you got to kind of look and see where we are landing, it feels like, hey, we are being a little bit of picky, right? And not picky, but we're being precise on who we're going after. Hey, this character, where they're from, this is going to work with our scheme. It is refreshing to see that we're not just, again, also not just being kind of like a whore in a sense, just being on everybody's table too. It feels very methodical. Dave, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and you got to be really careful with NIL. You saw the class that Miami ranked in last year. Obviously, it was all NIL. You could just tell. You want to be careful with that. I mean, are those kids just coming to your school for the money, or do they really want to play at your school, said school, whatever? You got to be careful with that. But I also like the approach that Billy Napier and the staff are taking. They're offering, like you said, they're putting as many lines as they can out there. And you go back to the transfer portal comment. You go back to the DeMarcus Bowman where he picked Clemson and then he transferred to Florida. Of course, Dan Mullen was here when that happened, but still, I mean, Florida was the second choice. He transferred to Florida, and we brought up Lorenzo Lingard before the show as well. It is good to have a hat on the table sometimes, and even if you don't get that said person, if they don't have the time that they thought they would at that school, maybe that's that second stop. I mean, with the way the transfer portal is. I mean, you can, it's still okay to be upset not landing a recruit, but it doesn't mean that you can't land them later, right? But you never want to hold on to that hope. You always want to go for the first guy that you want. And I also think that they're doing a phenomenal job of, taking the guys that maybe are like 3 stars or not exactly like ranked really high yet, because it's the beginning of a cycle, right? They're going through a good evaluation process here. Like Josiah Davis, I mean, he was 3-star guy. He's ranked 480th in the nation. But I've listened to the 24/7 Sports podcast. What was it, a couple of days ago? And they said that they expect him to climb in the top 247 with just his skill set and all that. So, like I said, even if you take a kid that's maybe, even ranked in the 3-star range, especially in March, you never know what he's going to end up at. I mean, look at Jakeem Jackson. I mean, this kid was ranked 500th when the cycle started, and now he's a top 50 player. I mean, I think the evaluation process is more of what I'm more, intrigued by what Billy Napier and the staff has done. Of course, they missed out on some kids, obviously, against Miami and some other schools, but they really got in kids that were really skilled, and obviously some of them haven't even come to campus yet. They're going to come in either summer A, summer B, but I kinda like it, man. I like the slow, methodical, we're not gonna get into a bidding war kind of approach. I like that a lot better because you're taking a more careful approach getting a kid that actually wants to come to your school, and when you get a kid that wants to come to your school, he's gonna wanna play for your football team and not just say, "Hey, I want more NIL money," which this is the day and age we're living in anyway.
Well, and that's the hardest part about recruiting right now, right? Is that you are trying to figure out everybody's intentions. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you knew which guys wanted to play for your universities. And if you had ulterior motives for going to a school, it was generally, I don't know that I love the school, but I think it's my fastest route to the NFL, which at least that guy's still going to go hard, perform well, whatever, because of the end result that he is looking for. We're in this like really weird time where guys are, let me take the money right now. I'm not even thinking about who can develop me and who can get me to the next level. I'm just worried about cashing in now. And it's kind of the same concept as one and done in college basketball, which we're kind of seeing them schools go away from a little bit now. But I think that NIL just makes it so complicated. I love that Billy does seem to be doing exactly what you were saying, in that he's picking guys that fit his system, his scheme, and what he's looking for, less concerned about winning, a recruiting national title, and more concerned about building a team that's going to win on the field. And I do think that long term, that's where he's going to end up more successful.
It doesn't seem like he's getting over how we, the fans, get oversaturated with the stars, right? We get super focused on that, and it's like if it's not a 5-star, we don't want to talk about it. It happens all the time. The past video with Josiah Davis, everyone's like, we're getting this excited about a 3-star. It's like, look into the data. Yeah, we're getting this excited about a 3-star. It's not just like he's going to be a part of the team. You know what I mean? So Kyle Trask, 3-star, right? We talk about this all the time about stars on everything. Do they matter? Yes, to a certain extent. It definitely translates into the NFL and having a successful team, 100%. But yes, he's not out here to win a recruiting title by any stretch of the imagination. So I love it. I think, obviously, the names that are popping up, a big name that landed us in their top 5 just the other day is Xavier, the number 2. I would like to say his last name, but I also don't want to butcher it. The number 2. Say that?
Phil Sami.
Thank you.
Thanks.
I will take it. Number 2 safety in the country, ranked 28th nationally. He's a 5-star recruit according to 247. Again, we landed in his top 5, which I'm loving it. And then we've got everybody tweeting at him. Obviously, DJ, who has been the head honcho in recruiting. I think DJ Lagway speaks more volumes to what Billy is doing than people can truly grasp. And I talked a little bit about it when him and Jeremiah Smith last weekend, but just watching him navigate and how bought in he is, the guy is operating like he's a CEO of the Florida Gators. And I've mentioned it time and time again. These are the guys the kids that Billy's going after. And like we just said, you can kind of tell how he's picking and choosing who he wants to come after, or who he wants to come to Florida. And last thing I wanted to go over before I pass it to you guys is beating Florida State and Miami are, in my opinion, the 2 biggest ones. Look, I think taking a few from Georgia and Alabama would be fantastic as well, but we got to understand where we're still at. So it's a long way to go. But Miami, we can't lose any more to Miami. Now, if we are losing to Miami, I think we kind of just agreed that if we're losing for financial reasons, then they weren't going to be a fit anyways. So I think people have to understand that as well. Florida State doesn't seem to be in that boat. So if we're losing to FSU, it's going to sting a little bit more. But Allie, thoughts on Xavier?
He is an elite prospect, right? More than likely, this is going to come down to Florida and Georgia. I think LSU has the opportunity to hop in here as well, but I would assume Florida's going to get an official visit because they're in his top 5. He's coming back for the spring game. I think that's a great opportunity. DJ will be there. It's always fun to watch football under the lights in the swamp. There'll be lots of former players on the sidelines and things like that for him to, kind of take all in. But Florida's got to stay on him, right? And this would be a really big win. And I do think we're kind of at the point right now where we need to beat Florida State and Miami head to head. If we do beat a Georgia or an Alabama, like you said, that's a win, but that may almost be ahead of schedule, if that makes sense.
Sure.
But I think that this is one that Florida can win if they stay on, and I do think that if it happens, DJ is probably why.
Yeah, I agree, man. Anytime you can get a 10.5 200-meter safety in your class, it doesn't matter what star rating he is, I will take him all day long. But yeah, I think Billy Napier's approach too, with recruiting now as opposed to last year. Last year he didn't really get that quarterback in his class until well, he didn't even really
July.
have him, but he got him. He got him at some point, and then you know what happened with the whole Rashada situation. But this year he's already got a elite quarterback, a 5-star quarterback there to recruit for him. And he's
Right.
also working on Austin Simmons for next year as well. And I think that's the approach that, maybe he's taken a different, I guess, track or journey with, is getting that quarterback in there first so he can help recruit for your class along with the assistants. But as far as Xavier, I know you said his name earlier. I'm the butcher of names too. I like the fact that he's coming back, especially for the spring game. He seems to have a legitimate interest in the Florida Gators. And as Ali said, it's going to come down to Georgia and Florida. And if, Florida can pull that one off, man, we're sitting pretty, especially with, two guys that are, I would say, top 50, close to 5 stars, then two linebackers that we have, and DJ Lagway, you add him into the mix. I mean, you already have an elite class right now with just 5 guys in it. You add that 6th guy there, that's going to make a lot of other elite recruits come looking at Florida.
You gotta think the Corey Raymond move helps in this situation
Just about
as
to say
well.
that. Yep. I was about to say Corey Raymond is going to have a big factor. Look, it's going to look good for Armstrong too if he's able to pull off his safety move. Even though I think it's going to go more into the Raymond, I think we're definitely going to give the nod to third advisor. That's another nickname there for that as well. So yeah, I think Corey Raymond getting the reins on that it's gonna help a lot for sure. Which again kind of shows Billy's out here playing chess, and I've always been a preacher in that. Next on the list, we have offensive linemen. I think for me, I talk about this every single time. I always preface this. It's got to be the year of the O-lineman for me. I say with us having 2 offensive lineman coaches, we should be just mopping the floor with these kids. A big one that it feels like it's an automatic lock. The kid's from Ponte Vedra, Jake G. I don't want to say his last name either because God
I
forbid
don't know his last name either.
just get an easy last name, guys. That's my only request for these recruits, if they could just change it for me. But 6'4", 280. Obviously, according to our metrics for offensive linemen, a little tiny, okay? It means put on some weight. But the height's there. He's a 3-star according to On3. Obviously, I think he's going to have a great senior year in Ponte Vedra. Pretty high-profile school up here in northeast Jacksonville. So we can obviously see that number arise. But he's visiting 2 more times. The guy's there every the weekend. It's an easy trip. To me, it seems like an absolute shoe-in, and it could be that first catalyst to that offensive lineman, which excites me. And he's not the only offensive lineman that's excited. He just, like I said, feels like an absolute lock. Swolder? Or Allie, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, these are the guys that have to be automatic, right? These are the guys that have to be a lock. He is 90 minutes from Gainesville, right? He is Florida born. You're going up against NC State and Florida State. There should be no question about where he goes. And it almost is more of a problem if he doesn't end up on Florida's roster, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I would kind of agree with that, unless they target somebody else later. I wouldn't assume who that person would be, or I mean, there's so many offers out there right now. You just don't really know where the staff's, thinking or now. But I mean, he just visited Tuesday. He's going to visit again this weekend, as you said. That's a good sign right there. He's visited twice in at least 1 week. But it's 6'4", 290. I'm sure he's going to go over 300 pounds before he gets to Florida. But I like it. And I always say this, that offensive line is probably the hardest position to kind of evaluate there. I mean, you see these 5-star, these 4-star guys, but you see a lot of these 3-star offensive linemen going to the NFL. You see a lot of these 4-star guys going to the NFL. I do like the fact that they're bringing in height and size more than kind of like what Coach Hevesy brought in, and we weren't too happy and thrilled with what Coach Hevesy was doing there. So the offensive line recruiting's already had an improvement already, and getting a guy like this in, I'm not opposed to it at all. And especially like you said, this could be the catalyst to open up more offensive linemen coming to the University of Florida.
Well, with offensive line, that's the absolute hardest position to recruit, right? Because in
Yep.
general, at high school programs, they take their biggest kids and stick them on O-line. They don't really teach them technique. They're not there because they have any particular skill set outside of the fact that you can't teach size. So then when you're recruiting, the whole concept is to grab as many guys as you possibly can and pray that you can teach some of them good technique because it's a crapshoot, right? So you do need to almost oversign offensive linemen to make sure that you have a serviceable amount of guys to rotate through. And Billy's done that. I was talking to Shannon Snell last week, and he told me that he thinks they have 11, maybe 12 guys that'll make it in the rotation. That's a massive improvement over last year when Florida had a good first string offensive line. So I think that, the size and is that he's going after is the intangible here, right? That is the only part that he can't teach. So I like the model.
That's a very good point. I think if you go look at the depth chart of offensive linemen, it's insane. You're like, who are these people? Like I've looked at it before, just trying to get when I was learning the team, figure out who's on what, and there is just a slew of them. And I'm like, we only play 5 guys. What's going on here? So that's a good point. Moving on to the running back room, I was trying to look. Was it Anthony Carey that left us out of his top 5, or was it what's running back just the other day who we were in heavy favorite for? We were no longer in their top 5. I was trying to look. We were talking about it, David. Do you remember who it was?
Not off the top of my head.
It wasn't Anthony Carey, I don't believe, right? Because we're still in favorite for him. I tweeted out kind of like scratching my head like, I thought we were high on him. The reason I say that is because we were going to move on to Stacey Gage. And Stacey Gage, the talk was, I know Anthony Carey was one, Stacey Gage, and there was the third one. Maybe Anthony Carey or another one. I can't remember now.
How about Cannon Daniels? We're still in his. Are you talking about the one that didn't have us?
Did not have us in his top
okay.
5.
All right.
You don't remember?
No, not off the top of my head.
Okay. That's my bad. But again, it kind of puts me back to Stacey Gage, who has now removed us from his profile page. But that's the focus seems to now, again, it always was kind of like, well, maybe we're more honed in on Stacey Gage. Because again, there's a lot of running backs out there. I know we're crystal balled for a 3-star running back right now. Obviously, Chauncey Bowens is committed. So how thick and juicy is this running back room going to get is obviously the big question. Stacey Gage would be a massive pickup. If we got Chauncey Bowens and Stacey Gage 1, 2, because it seems like Jarrett Gibson has moved on to Texas, would be huge. Thoughts on that, Allie, with Stacey Gage? I'll try to find this running back.
Well, I think Stacey Gage is important for multiple reasons. One, he'd be a great addition to this class, but he goes to St. Thomas Aquinas, and making sure that there is a pipeline there is really important. It's one of the best high schools in the state of Florida for producing football talent. So it's kind of like that, they used to say Florida wasn't getting any guys from IMG and that they needed to build the pipeline there and stuff. And now Florida has kind of done that. They need to make sure they continue the relationship with St. Thomas Aquinas. But he's a top 200 player nationally. He's the 14th best running back in the country. Florida is going to put on a show this year with their running backs, I think. I think they did a pretty great job last year with that as well. And so you've got to think close to home, a place where you're going to get production. Florida sits in a good position here. They are going to have to beat out some elite schools. So this is one of those tests too, to see how far Billy is in our recruiting. Are we going to make it on the table essentially?
And it was Anthony Carey. I just found it in there in the chat confirming that it was. And so Anthony Carey, they had it on 3, had us at the top, and they still do right now currently as a top prospect to come to Florida. So again, that one I remember reading about it and talking about it, and we were almost like a lock, it felt like. So for us to be left out the top 5 was confusing. And again, I'm looking at right now, the RPM recruit machine has Anthony at 21.5 for Florida, yet we're not even in his top 5. So again, I think a good point is building that pipeline to that school. I think that's something also, too, what DJ has done to just the state of Texas, not necessarily Willis, but his connection to Texas has been able to bring a lot of talent in. Dave?
Yeah, we went over this with Connor a little bit too. Most of the talent right now is in the state of Texas, especially for this cycle, which is actually very rare. You usually find it mostly in the state of Florida. But with the running back situation, me personally, that's something I'm less worried about, considering the production that we've already had at running back, the production that Billy Napier's had at running back at Louisiana Lafayette. He's shown a track record of running the football and being able to do it effectively. So even if Stacey Gage was not to come to Florida or Gibson wasn't to come to Florida, they got a guy that they're targeting. And, with the offensive line recruiting that they have going on, and especially Kanan Daniels, who's a kid who's been heavily crystal balled to us, who averages 10 yards per carry. He's rushed for 3,000 yards already. He's still got a senior year to go. If they weren't even to come to the University of Florida and we were even able to pick up Kanan Daniels, we don't know where he'll be ranked at the end of the cycle either. I would still be okay with it just based on the track record that Billy Napier has of, running the football, being able to get production out of his running backs. You could give me anybody. I mean, look what he's done with Montrell Johnson. We talked about offensive linemen just a second ago. Look what he did with Osiris Torrance. This kid was rated like 2,000th in the nation, and now he's going to be a first-round draft pick. So
got a break, baby.
Got a break.
Yeah, but when it comes to the running back or offensive line part of the recruiting, when it comes to Billy Napier, I'm particularly not worried about who he picks and chooses from.
Oh, I thought you were going to say something. Yeah, so look, I'm loving where we're at. The last thing I wanted to go over was Jeremiah Smith, obviously 5-star wide receiver. I think for me, that's probably the flashiest, prettiest person that we would love to get. I think if Florida, Billy, and DJ were able to land Jeremiah Smith, I don't know how Gator Twitter would be able to contain themselves. It would be an absolute mayhem. But I think it would be a great time to be a part. Trust me. I've humped a spaceship when DJ got recruited us. I don't know what would be left to hump if we got Jeremiah Smith on top of that. But my point of that is, if we're to land Jeremiah Smith, where does that set up this class? I mean, I think it's going to set a staple. And look, how much time does Jeremiah Smith want? How long does he want to wait? I think if he wants to build an important class, kind of like DJ did went early. I think Jeremiah's like, hey, he's already committed to Ohio State. Obviously, he committed to Ohio when Dylan was still there. Dylan is no longer on the table for Ohio State. Does that mean Ohio State's going to slouch by any stretch? No. Ohio State's a phenomenal wide receiver school. So to be able to pull him one from Ohio State and to be a catalyst of this class, the class could be huge. Allie?
All right, so Ohio State has Brian Hartline, right? He's probably regarded as the best wide receivers coach in the country. So I think that it's going to be difficult to pull Smith from there. I talked to Corey Bender about it a little bit this week, and he was saying that he really thinks this is more about Smith taking his time, taking his visits, doing his due diligence, potentially in case something doesn't work out once he gets up there. But I was really impressed that DJ Lagway got on a plane, flew out, and had a conversation with Smith, spent the days with him. You've got to think there's at least some interest there, because I think that that's a pretty big trip, a pretty big move. It's not like he's driving from Jacksonville to go hang out with a couple recruits there. Like, that was, he got on a plane, came to Gainesville to make this pitch. So he's got to think that the door is at least open a little bit. But I mean, Lagway said he wanted to sign the number one class in the country in 2024. And obviously we're all like, that would be amazing. We'll see, like, get us in the top 5. We'll take top 10 at this point, whatever. But I mean, he's a hustler, right? He's working. Florida's in it. I think it'll take a lot to steal them from him from Ohio State, but I do think it's a possibility.
Dave? Yeah, I agree. Brian Hartline, his resume speaks for himself. Any wide receiver, especially a top wide receiver that goes to Ohio State under Brian Hartline, is going to be a problem for any school to acquire. But I mean, we've seen some crazy things. I mean, the whole Evan Stewart thing. We remember that it didn't work out for us. Obviously, he went to A&M. But we've seen these crazy battles that you think you're not in it, or maybe the quarterback starts getting into the wide receiver's ear or one of the players' ears, and then something happens last minute on signing day, or something happens last minute, or as we alluded to earlier, like if you got hats on the table and maybe you're the second hat and it doesn't work out, maybe he does come back to you through the portal. I mean, it doesn't. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, Billy G, he's got a good track record as well. I mean, his resume speaks for himself. Brian Hartline, same thing. I guess I could say it's going to be a battle right now. I would still choose him to stay at Ohio State, but I mean, you know how recruiting goes. It's only March. But that's just me not trying to get my hopes up. I hope I'm wrong, and then everybody can laugh at me later. So
I'm hoping so too on this one.
That one's probably going to come down to it's going to come down to the very wire, I think. But I would still choose Ohio State now, but I hope it's Florida.
You mentioned Billy Gonzalez, and I do expect that he'll be, a big portion of this, obviously not just as a wide receivers coach, but like when you look at at the talent that he was able to recruit and develop when he was here at Florida under Urban. I know that, Gator fans maybe were a little wary because he left when Dan left, but Billy Gonzalez was regarded as one of the very best recruiters on Florida's staff during the glory years, right? And he's coached a ton of talent that ended up doing really well long-term in the NFL. So I know these guys are kind of young for the Percy Harvin days and stuff like that. But if they get on and they do their research, they're going to find that Florida has a great wide receivers coach right now that can help them get to the next level.
Yeah, we talk about Billy G-Wagon a lot on here. I mean, most of the guys that are here watching now, we've talked about the two kind of precasts of the fan base. The guys that are watching in middle March they've been riding for a while, so they're definitely aware. Really quick before we move on and we let Allie go, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Robert Juden. He created this graphic here. You guys probably saw it floating around Twitter today. Absolutely incredible. I wanted to give him some shout out, some love. Go follow him on Jude_InDesign. He has an incredible DJ Lagway on there too. And obviously, I mean, this is hot. I mean, Jeremiah Smith sees this. I'm like, yo, that's fresh. I don't know what this stuff is. Can somebody tell me what this move is right here? Like what this thing is? Maybe in the chat. Dave has no clue what's going on. Everyone's doing it, and I look. 10 years ago, I wouldn't look like an idiot and ask that question. Now I'm 30 and have a kid. I don't care to look like an idiot. I gotta know. Like, what are we doing here?
I know what they're doing, man.
No.
Okay, maybe I don't.
No, that's not it. So if you guys can let me know in the chat or the comments, I would love to know what this means. But Allie, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. If you're more than welcome to come back at any time. You have had extreme growth. I think you hit 2,000 subs just today, which is incredible and rightfully deserved. And I can see why you're exceptional and amazing. And again, thank you again for coming on our show and speaking with us, our two doofuses. Let them know where they can find you on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube as well, so they can keep up with your content. I think the chat was going nuts, and we'd love to get more from you. So,
all right, cool. Well, Twitter is at Allie_Peak. Peak is P-E-E-K. It's the maiden name. My husband hates. So I've been married literally 11 years next month, and I still do stuff under Allie Peak. But
he's not a fan.
He's not a fan. My voicemail still says Allie Peak on my cell phone. It's been that long, and I am that lazy that it is still Allie Peak on there. But and then a peek inside Florida Gator football on YouTube. You can check out, drop videos, a couple times a week, and it's been fun. But thanks for having me on, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, and you can't change it now with a great name like that.
And Wilbur's a terrible last name, so we're keeping Peak.
Brutal. Absolutely. Well, again, Allie, thank you again. We appreciate you. Well, definitely, if you're enjoyed it and had a good time and didn't get scared off, we'll love you. We'll have you back on. So appreciate you.
Perfect. Anytime I can avoid bedtime, I'm down. So
that is true. I forgot you did say that it was a dream come true that you get to avoid that. So maybe we might be having a nice little thing going on here. So
there you go.
Awesome. Allie, appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Allie. You do a phenomenal job. If y'all have not checked her out on YouTube, check her out. She does an amazing job there on her YouTube channel.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
See ya.
Thank you.
Oh, maybe she was still talking. Later, Allie. Oh, boys, I'm sorry to ruin your evening. Definitely a downgrade. You son of a bitch. You had to I hate you so much.
Now everybody's leaving.
Let's
Call
go,
Allie.
baby.
Bring her back.
Let's go.
The views just declined. Just everybody
I
leaves.
still got
Everybody.
the tag on it. I haven't taken the tag off yet.
Shout out to what's his name? Cody from House Fanatics. He got us both jerseys, so shout out to him. Look, good stuff there, guys. The show's not over, so don't leave. I know you guys get scared when Steve hops on, but we're still humping and bumping. Hey, while we're here, obviously, let's go ahead and we gave a shout out to our sponsorship while the three of us are here because you guys look absolutely phenomenal today. Breaking news, Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They once again revolutionizing men's grooming with the brand new Beard Hedger. From beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you can finally use Manscaped products to match your drapes, to match the carpet by going to manscaped.com and using the code HIGHTOP for 20% off and free shipping. Come on, baby.
Love it. Love it.
Get
love
on.
it.
Nico says
I
boo.
took a nose trimmer to work yesterday. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of look. There's a lot of work that needs to be done up here. This thing is not the easiest to look at, right? So I was just taking kind of a peek. Like, man, I got to clean up a little bit. I kind of tilted my head back. I'm like, Oh man, there's a whole garden in there, man. So I took the nose trimmer to work, baby. That thing took care of business. So anybody who's looking at some unsightly nonsense across this or even that, if you know what I mean, definitely go to Manscaped. Make sure you use code HIGHTOP for 20% off and free shipping. Trust me, it is absolutely worth it. It's great stuff.
And if you guys were here last Thursday for the live call-in when Pimpy Patty came in and stole the show, go. If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it because it was incredible. But Pimpy Patty says Steve's the man.
Pimpy Patty's here.
Yes, sir. Well, Dave, this is where we let you go, big guy. So I probably should have to go work out, or I know you got that dog in you. So whatever you need to go do, Dave, go ahead and get it done.
Yeah, you haven't said that at all this show yet.
Dave got that dog in him, baby. Y'all already know. That's why. Hey, y'all. Why does Dave have to get off early? Dave's got date night on Wednesday. Okay. He got a little Manscaped action. They've got that dog in him, so we gotta let Dave go early.
I gotta apply that body wash and
get that deodorizer, maybe a little spritzer,
deodorizer, the ball deodorant, everything, man.
That's it.
Look at all of it.
Later, Dave. Love you, man. Appreciate you.
Later, Dave.
Later, Beth.
All right, Steve. Let me get you over here, big guy. We get y'all clocked in.
Way too many of you right there.
Look at this. Back at it again, the boys. Grinding, hustling. If you guys are hanging out with us, drop a like. We got 200 people in here. We only have 64 likes. Like, show some love here, boys. You know what I'm saying? The show's still rolling. We're rocking and rolling. We're about an hour in. Got a lot to go over. Oh, you saw this topic yet? This is supposed to be the last thing. We'll get into that in a minute. Damn it. I hate that for me. All right, first thing first, guys. March Madness saga. Absolutely just disastrous. And I saw a buddy who I've had on the show before. He talked about this today, and I was kind of ranting and raving about this. March Madness sucks. The Final Four is disastrous. And as much as we love a good Cinderella story, you only love it for the first and second rounds. You think you want it until it's here. I'm not fired up to watch FAU against San Diego State. I could give two shits. And I don't care about Miami or UConn. This isn't women's basketball. You know what I'm saying? So I hate it. I am beyond excited to watch women's NCAA basketball tournament on Friday against South Carolina and Iowa. You got South Carolina, who's undefeated with a phenomenal head coach, going up against Iowa. Her name's Caitlin. Dropped 40 points the other night. 40, 10, 12. First woman or man in NCAA to put up a triple-double in March Madness tournament. She put up 96 points, the team did. They're out here hooping, bro. So, look, again, and we talked about this. I was talking to my buddy Connor about this. The only thing he's actually provided some health to this relationship that I have with him. It's very, and honestly, Allie kind of hinted towards it, and I almost ran away with it because she mentioned it, of how you see this one and done in college basketball, which is killing the blue bloods of college basketball. They're getting all the studs, right? They're getting all these great 5-star rooks that are going right into the NBA, but you don't have this build, right? You don't have 3 or 4 years under Coach K or at UNC, and that's probably why those guys walked away from everything, right? But you don't have this couple years. Again, a big thing for me is Fab Five, something I've always loved watching. I didn't watch them live, but I've watched 360 and their documentary. I feel connected to the Fab Five just from watching the multiple different stories they tell, because they went through that progression each year to get better and better. And obviously, they never got it done, but you became part of that team. You felt that, and you're like, that's why those guys were always great. What's the coach from Calipari from UK or from Kentucky as well? Again, these blue bloods are kind of falling away, and it's showing that, look, these guys that are still here, the FAUs, the Miamis, the San Diego States, those are the juniors and seniors. They've been building this. They've been ready to rock and roll, and they are primed and ready to rock versus just a team full of athletes. You know, so is it bad for basketball? I think it's starting to catch up with itself. And you got women's basketball on the other hand, right? NCAA tournament, which is doing what the Blue Bloods have done for so long, and they've built this culture now. You've got the Lady Volunteers. They're always dominant. UConn is not what UConn used to be, but they're still UConn women's basketball, right? South Carolina, they are becoming a household name. Baylor, household name. LSU is a household name. So you get used to seeing those names, and come the Elite Eight and Final Four, you tune in. Now, you don't tune into women's basketball in the beginning like you do for men's, because it's a very slighted difference there. I mean, nobody's beating 1 seeds in women's basketball like they are in the men's side. It's much closer competition. So, San Diego's head coach recruited and coached the Fab Five. Interesting.
Okay.
Interesting, buddy. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, so look, one thing I will say is, to your point, you cannot watch a women's basketball regular season game. It's a little bit of a difficult grind to get through. Now, I'll say this: the fact that the lady from Iowa put up 40 in a game, that's how much typical offensive production you get
the whole game
for an entire team. Yeah, for the entire team.
Seriously.
Yeah, so that's impressive. I'm not even like ragging on anybody here. This is. I mean, I've seen some women's basketball scores where they didn't break 40, and for one player to get out there and do that, especially at this level, it's impressive. I'll give him that. Now, look, to the men's side of things. We talked about it a little bit precast, and you were talking just a little bit about March Madness and how it's kind of meh. And I was like, why? How did we not come up with March Sadness? Like, why? How did that not just roll right off of our tongue? I know. That's why I was gonna call you back, but you were already on the cast, and I was like, yeah.
Damn it,
Steve.
Steve.
Do it live. We'll do it live, people. We'll do it live. So that's where we're at. We're in March Sadness. Look,
appreciate it, Ty.
To your point, the Cinderellas are dried up in the novelty value no later than the third round. Anything outside of that, and you're just watching a lower quality of basketball.
Yeah.
And I just, it's part of me, like we talked about, like these guys are one step away from being in the NBA. And to watch some of these teams, especially San Diego, which, just when you thought you didn't have to watch that slow, defensive, plotting Virginia team that, just only scores maybe 60 points a game tops. Hey, hold my beer. Here comes the Aztecs, right? That are extremely unexciting, but play very similar style of basketball there. It feels weird watching this. It doesn't feel like any of these players are ready to take the next step into the NBA. I'm just not watching any talent that feels like, to your point, where they're the one and dones, but we were watching one and dones with, the Dukes of the world, the Kentuckys of the world, the UNC is the true blue bloods. The one thing that you're seeing without any of those teams in the Final Four is that the talent level isn't ready for that one and done. You're actually seeing a level of coaching that's translating from the coach to the court, and it's not because you've just got one guy or two guys on the court that are so dominant they can just win the game for you on their talent alone. So It's a little bit of a different dynamic. It's a little bit different to watch. Am I going to watch it? Absolutely. Am I going to enjoy it?
I'm not.
We'll see. I'm still going to watch it
tune
for
the championship game
it.
on. Yeah, I won't watch it. The best game, in my opinion, is going to be UConn versus Miami.
I would be stunned if the overall winner of the tournament doesn't come out of that game. Miami can score. They play fast. UConn's multiple. They can do a lot. They won 20 games by 15 points or more this year. So,
and they were down bad to Texas and had a roaring comeback. So, look, I think this is what people misunderstand. We hate the Dukes, the North Carolinas. It's just like the Patriots in football. You hate them. But when they're not there, you miss them. You need them to exist. You need a villain. There's too many Cinderellas we're looking around like, fuck, what do I hate now? Obviously, I hate Miami. But there's nobody you hate. FAU would be cool. San Diego State would be cool. Like, it's all cool. It's too many. I can't deal with it. Shout out to Around the Table Sports, says show some love. Go show that man some love. Guy puts out great content all the time. So
absolutely
appreciate the love, Ty. I think he was live a little bit earlier. I saw when we were live. So appreciate you coming in here, man. After you got done working and grinding away at
thanks
it.
for the competition.
Moving on to our Jacksonville Jaguar family here. It's quiet right now, and we kind of give we gave a little pre-off-season grade. And I was kind of hesitant on it. And now it seems like it's getting quieter. Not much is going on. Calais Campbell decided to sign with the Atlanta Falcons today for a 1-year deal. Little kind of confused. We don't have the details on how much he's getting paid. I think this would have been a big pickup for the Jags. We talked about this in a separate video. I think his leadership would have been huge. Now, if he's going to Atlanta getting $10 million, no bueno, right? Where's the line? I don't know. But for him going to Atlanta at the time of his career where he's at, you and I were talking about this, just doesn't seem right.
Yeah, so one of the things that obviously he's been a staple here. He's the mayor. He was like the man of the year in Jacksonville, if I'm not mistaken, or something to that level. But he was extremely involved in the Jacksonville community. He was very, very well received. Everybody loved him here. Obviously, he made the move to Baltimore, and it felt like that was a business move. That was a roster move. That was him trying to take the next step in his career move. All those things. We all still love Calais Campbell. And look, he came back. He visited. He left Jacksonville without an official offer. Said he was going to take a couple of visits. The tone that it kind of came from was that it looks like the last step in his career, which the guy's going to be 37 when we kick off the NFL season, is that the next step in the thing that he was searching for was a Super Bowl. So it made sense why he would come to Jacksonville, give us the respect of a visit, maybe just see the coaches, maybe just see some of his old teammates, if there's anybody still left on the roster that he was buddies with, right? Or he would just come back to Jacksonville. Again, he was widely respected here. But again, to have the concept of he wants a Super Bowl, fine, we love that for you, Calais. We're not quite there. I don't think the Jaguars are there. We played well. We got very close. So I don't think we're a Super Bowl caliber team just yet. So it made sense why he would continue to take visits. However, less than 48 hours later, if you're signing a 1-year deal with the Atlanta Falcons, it has absolutely nothing to do with wanting a Super Bowl. That team is not Super Bowl ready. That team is a decade, potentially more, unless they can get a whole lot together quickly, of being Super Bowl ready. So it's a little confusing for Jaguar fans. Again, it's all about money right at this point, especially at 37. How many more opportunities are you going to get to make money? But again, it's an odd move. We still love Calais. He's still the mayor. We call him that for a reason. You know, if anytime he wants to come back to Jacksonville, he'll get a King's invitation.
Definitely has a home here. And again, you expect that maybe going to the Buffalo or the Jets, Super Bowl bound team. This seems like a money grab, which is, again, interesting. I don't think anybody can say, oh, well, the Falcons are rebuilding. They're rebuilding, yes, but they're not even close to being where they need to be. So, unfortunate. Look, but here's the thing that I want to say about this. Being a Braves fan, I remember the year we lost in 2020 in the NLCS to the Dodgers. Going into that next season, I was like, we got to do big things, right? We're really good, really close, but we need to add a few more pieces. We got to go do this. We got to go do that. We didn't do jack shit. Okay, we didn't do a damn thing. Now, during the trade deadline, we made some trades, right? Which didn't seem like a lot, just felt like kind of filling because we lost Ronald Acuna. We go on to win the World Series. The reason I preference that is we don't know what the fuck we're doing. Hence why we're behind the microphone, and hence why we sit here and talk about it, right? So these guys know what they're doing. The GMs understand that. If the numbers don't make sense, they're not going to go out of their way. Would Calais Campbell, from a fanatic standpoint, made a lot of sense? Absolutely. But it's also you can't hang over and you can't get all lost about it. We went pretty far last year without him, right? And we were really, really close. It's as simple as just believing that you could have won that game when we beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and who knows what happens from there. So I know as a Jags fan, we want a lot of this to happen, but I think it's important to note that, look, let the guys do what they got us to that point last year. And again, we had the addition, obviously, of Christian Kirk. Do we really think the addition of Christian Kirk uplifted us to that level? No, I think Doug Pederson and the team clicking is what allowed for those things to happen, right? So it sucks because you like the reunion, but I think everything happens for a reason, and that's okay. Moving on to Creed 4. Oh, this was a video. Let's wait on that. I was like, what is Creed 4? Calvin Reed decides to go with zero, which is the NFL just allowed for players to start using zero again. And obviously the jokes of Calvin Ridley picking zero are pretty funny. Obviously the zero is representing his DraftKings balance. That's obviously what he's honoring there. What was your reasoning? What was your reasoning for a zero?
It's not going to be nearly as funny, but that is humorous at the absolute least. I mean, look, after he wrote that letter to the fans and to football as a whole, it felt like there was a little bit of like a soul cleansing moment when he had football taken away from him. To come back and have been as humble as he's been in this off year, to be as engaged and to not just have this chip on his shoulder where he's just kind of coming across like an ass. To write that letter seems a lot to me. And this is going to be just the underlying sports psychology that has absolutely no application to the situation whatsoever. But to me, it almost feels like him going back into the game with the number zero means that he's foregoing any of the accomplishments that he's already had in the NFL. He's basically saying, I'm hitting the reset button. I made a mistake. I had football taken away. I'm coming back and I'm starting at ground zero. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to make myself from here. Forget what happened in the past, starting from scratch.
Yeah, yours wasn't nearly as fun.
No, I told you it would be.
It was good. I love it. No, it's exciting. It's honestly the hypest news for the Jaguars right now. And Marvin Jones signed with the Detroit Lions today. So he's moving back home, which I think, look, the room was getting thick. He got to move on. I think that was expected. Real quick, shout out to Justin Goodwin. They're big fans of the show and always on here supporting Showing Some Love. Says, Swamp Donkeys have started another business called River Nuts in Bristol, Florida, selling peanuts and cold drinks along the Appalachian River. Give us a like, please. Go show them some love. And then the last thing here, let him speak. Dougie P says, pedal to the metal. We're coming. Right? Loved hearing that from the head honcho there. Again, kind of prefacing to what I mentioned earlier of, look, these guys know what they're doing. And I think they're excited and understand where they're at and the position that they're in and the ability to take over the AFC South. Basically, it's wide open. And I think they know what's at hand here. And I think by him saying that, look, you kind of always hear coaches like, yeah, I want to do a great job, but he understands what's at stake here and what's wanted. I think the buzz for a Super Bowl in Duval is much greater than it's ever been for as long as I can remember, maybe going back to the Miles wasn't down year, but I don't think the preseason kind of felt like this.
No, not at all. And look, I mean, don't get me wrong. Jaguar fans are thirsty for some successful, especially back-to-back successful seasons. So look, we may be making a whole lot out of absolutely nothing, which could just very well be coach speak. But to have a coach come out and to almost kind of allude to the fact that, we have to do the same thing after our Super Bowl run, to just have a coach that comes across with a little bit more confidence and not just the cookie cutter, just kind of cardboard crap that everybody seems to say. I was excited about that. And then also kind of going back to the free agency piece, he did have a comment about how in the offseason, he said that we're going to be re-emphasizing drafting and developing over going through free agency, which was what he acknowledged we did last year. He said that's not going to be what we do this year. I think he's pretty honest with the fans at this point, which again is very refreshing if you actually listen to some of these coaches talk. So he actually goes on to say that our philosophy with myself and Trent is that you don't have to spend a lot of resources in free agency. If you don't have to, don't do it. What you want to be able to do is build through the draft and keep your team coming up from that level, which as we see and as we hear him interview, now we watch the practical application of why aren't the Jaguars making a little bit more noise in the free agent market. Yeah, this is exactly why you and I are sitting behind a microphone and he's back there playing chess and not checkers. This was their game plan. This was the plan from the beginning. So it's good to see. It's refreshing. It feels good to have some competent leadership, which I don't believe that we've ever been super excited about here in the last maybe 10 years at that level. So this is great for Jaguar fans, and it does give us a lot of confidence that we haven't had in a while just by listening to the coaches that we have and even the GM present their plan to us in a way that makes us understand kind of the strategy that we're watching unfold here.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick question from John Paul for you, Steve.
It's not going away, man. I've had that thing since college.
Hey, real quick, show some love for our man Andrew Apple.
Andrew, what's up, baby?
Is having some issues, so had to go back to the hospital today. So prayers for you, my man. Hopefully everything works out, Bubba. The last thing we have a couple things we got to go over. So Lamar to the Pats. So this is the source that we're crediting to here is the rapper Meek Mill. Tweeted out Robert Kraft. I think that the news line here is Meek Mill and Robert Kraft are boys like that. But we'll move on.
They have each other's number, which is it's impressive.
There's a picture of them sitting court line too, or sideline, or courtside as well. Meek Mill texted Kraft that Lamar wants to come play for New England, and Kraft said allegedly that Bill Belichick has the last say. But Lamar would be an upgrade to Mac Jones, allegedly.
Look, I think this was actually Robert Kraft having this discussion at the owners' meeting, the same one that
he quoted saying Pederson. This because I didn't see the quotes the article that are from Fox News didn't have quotes from him.
No, it was like a slideshow, but I went back and I actually watched a little bit of the YouTubans before we got on here, and one of the guys that used to do that, they had the same name on ESPN. It was like the two Adams or something like that. It was like one of the guys played for
Mike
Notre
and Mike.
Dame. Anyway, Mike and Mike. Thank you very much. Yeah, it was him. It was actually quoting it. He was quoting on his stream. So look, maybe the context is coming across a little odd, but the story came out in this owners and coaches meeting that Doug Pederson is at right now. So I don't think Meek Mill's wandering around those meetings giving cool stories. But the more I thought about it after you and I got off the phone is, let's be honest. I mean, if you're the Patriots, do you give Mac Jones in a first rounder for Lamar Jackson? That's the number 14 pick.
Is he? Oh, yeah, he requested a trade. Wow, that is interesting.
Yeah.
And
so you would essentially ship off Mac and give up your 14, potentially even a 14 and a 3 or something like that.
I'm not sold on Lamar. If I'm the Ravens, I'm like, what's up? I don't think Mac's no slouch by any stretch.
No, but he's not ready to win now. I think Lamar can win now.
Sure, and that's where the Patriots obviously want to get back to. So,
sure. Yeah, the Patriots are probably one of the choice teams in the NFL that know what the value of a good quarterback will do for you in regard to winning games and Super Bowls. So, look, it'll be interesting. I mean, I think that you don't see a story like this surface without a little bit of something behind it. And maybe this is Robert Kraft's way of even giving a wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the guy who's going to make the final decision, and Bill Belichick. But he can't outright say it. Hey, it's Bill Belichick's decision, but it'd certainly be an upgrade. I don't know.
Absolutely.
We'll see how that one plays out. That'll be fun.
Absolutely. Steve, I got to, you know what I got to
I
do,
know.
so
I know. You usually have a good, your bladder has a good like half-life, right? You've been on, let's give Shelton a little bit of a round of applause here. He's been on the cast since 8:35. Now, prior to getting on the cast, we do a precast. Usually starts about 7:45 where we get on here, we cover some topics. We're all dialed in. We're dialed in from about 7:45. It goes live. We're still on here at 9:50. And so that's about where Shelton's half-life of a bladder is going from about 7:45. He's about 2 hours in. It looks like, look, if I'm just doing the play-by-play, I want to say he's already 2 primes in. I'm not sure if that's if that's Dion's new drink, but it would make sense why he's so thirsty for it. That being said, well done, Shelton. I mean, you held on longer than you did last week, which just shows me that you've been practicing. You've been doing your Kegel muscles. You've been really just trying to apply all the gains that you've picked up here. Another one, just while he's taking care of the business here. There's still another like little floating detail out there in the NFL right now, and that is that the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers still don't have an official deal. Now, it seems like, all things considered, that it's just a foregone conclusion that it's going to happen, right? The Jets have already made some moves to get some players that Rodgers had on a list that he wants to see, which they've gone out and done. And typically it wouldn't be all that concerning, but we are talking about the New York Jets. So if anything can go wrong, it would go wrong in New York. So again, I don't think it's too concerning, but it's been lingering out there for quite a while that the Jets and Aaron Rodgers were going to finalize this thing. But
it's only right too for him to follow the Brett Favre path. Was it the Vikings and the Jets though?
It was the Vikings and the Jets. Yeah.
Oh, he's skipping one. Okay.
No,
all right.
Yeah,
he's skipping a step. Moving on. So top 10 riches. This is kind of just like a little fun little article. On3 has their valuations, how they based on the player, based on the student athletes. Where the hell did it go? Did I lose it? And so they have the top 3 values of the student athletes. So you already know who number 1 is. I told you. Number 1 is LeBron James. The first 2 people, LeBron James and then Arch Manning. But you discredited those 2 names. Why?
They're pre-made. They were going to be NIL money just because of their last names and who they came from family wise. That was just they were gonna throw money at those guys just to get the name recognition on the rosters. So
what's funny, because again, they base these evaluations off of followings and their social media gatherings, right? LeBron James has 12.7 million, so his NIL evaluation is 7.2 million. And second is Arch at 3.7. His social media following is 245,000. Like, it's not even close. Look, I think you could almost credit Bronny James. Like, yes, his, it was already there, but he has a following. Now,
sure.
Obviously due to LeBron.
I think his dad has a guy that handles a lot of that.
But still, Bronny does a good job. Bronny does a good job of marketing himself. Arch doesn't do jack shit. So that number, I would say, is 100% related to his name. Third, you have Livy Dunn, who is Holly's favorite student athlete.
I called that one. When you asked who I thought number one was, I said Livy Dunn, and you said no, it's Bronny James and Arch Manning. I said no, those were prefabricated. I was right if you take those out, and that was before I even looked at the list.
Yes, he is correct. Fourth is Mikey Williams, American basketball player. Then you have Caleb Williams, and second, then Travis Hunter, then Shador Sanders, and then Drake May. Shout out to Drake May, and then Bo Nix.
What? Drake May coming out of nowhere, huh?
Yeah, right? Only 62,000 social media followers, but has a $1.5 million valuation. Shout out to old Drake May. I mean, Drake May in the names alongside Shador Sanders, Travis Hunter, and Caleb Williams. I mean, that's big time stuff right there, Drake. You need to be flexing that on your Insta. You know,
I would be. Yeah, I mean, well, he won't because he doesn't clearly use it. It's just not his thing.
That's true.
He's already making $1.5 million. Why even lift a finger? Do it without all that work. This is why I only do one show a week with you. Well, I'm already making all the money. Why would I do anything else?
This is true too. Last before we go, boys and girls, this is a question for Steve that he wasn't prepared for. Steve will be honest. He'll be very humble about it and boring. But I wanted to ask you: is FSU? Are they going to be Are they competitive enough to win a national championship in this upcoming season?
They are competitive enough. I don't know if they're deep enough. Meaning, I don't know if they have the depth of a Georgia, Alabama. We saw it this year against the teams that we lost: Wake Forest, NC State, and Clemson. By the time that we got to those games, our defensive line was so beat up that we really couldn't stop the run very well, which became pretty evident in all those games. So I think we have the surface level talent to get there, potentially win it. I don't know if we have the depth because offensive, defensive lines just get shattered usually by your fourth or fifth game.
That's a fair assessment. I think
But
getting there, the path getting there isn't
that's
as
the answer that you're sufficient for.
No, I'm happy with that. The path getting there isn't as bumpy as people would assume. I mean, again, winning the ACC, it should be pretty simple this year. Wake Forest is going to be down, who you lost to last year. NC State lost their quarterback; they should be down this year. Clemson's going to be Clemson. You always got you never know what you're going to get out of them. But look, you got to go through Florida. Florida State, in my opinion, what's going to hold them back. Now, Florida's not going to keep them out of the ACC championship, so disregard that because they could lose that game. But LSU first game of the season 2 is not going to be a cakewalk. So, look, in all fairness, you got a pretty tough little schedule you got put together here. But winning the ACC is very doable. I would say you guys are probably favored, if not second, to win the ACC. I'm not sure yet, but competitively, I think you're kind of nailed on the head. The depth. Look, I think because the path, you could be in the conversation very much so, very, very, very easily. You got to go undefeated. I think maybe one loss. And definitely win the ACC.
It'd have to be early. It'd have to be
I think if you go undefeated and lose to Florida and then win the ACC championship and Clemson has maybe one loss, or you wouldn't play Clemson, right? No, you wouldn't play Clemson. Maybe
we would have to play them twice. No. We have the model that the SEC is going to, where we don't really have East and West or Atlantic and Coastal anymore. It's already like that now. So that when we go in next year, it's just the two teams with the best overall conference ranking. So if we beat Clemson, we have to play them again, which we could very well lose the ACC championship and knock us out. Or we could lose to Clemson and get some redemption, which would give us a pretty big boost at the end of the season. So that's going to be a different dynamic there.
Here's what concerns me. I think you lost the 3 games, NC State, Wake Forest, and Clemson, with very, very ugly losses. And the big wins that you had were, and I'm not taking any credit away, but the LSU wasn't really an impressive win because I think LSU ended up really well, but you caught LSU at the perfect time. The perfect time. It's kind of like Florida catching Utah. You look at the end of the year, you're like, Florida's not better than Utah. Well, we beat them, right? Well, we caught them at the right time, right? Sure. So that was, in my opinion, Florida against LSU. You beat a down Florida team, right? The other big games that mattered that you were ready, and you beat Miami. Miami wasn't good. The other 3 teams that you needed to beat, you couldn't get it done. And so that is where, for me, if I'm a Florida State fan, what concerned me is you didn't get it done in the big games. And what makes you think that you're going to go out there and blow it out this year? Again, Jordan Walker. His name's Jordan Walker, right? What's his name?
Who's that?
Quarterback. Jordan Travis. Excuse me. Jordan Travis, obviously a Heisman favorite, top 5 Heisman favorite for a lot of people. A lot of excitement behind him. Jaheim Bell coming in, top tier tight end. Phenomenal job in the transfer portal, which to me hasn't proven to be all that successful just yet. I mean, I think it shows that you can put a team together that's competitive, that can win 10 games, that can win 11 games. But is it going to do enough to get it done? kind of going back to that March Madness, right? You kind of lose that growth and that progression over 3 to 4 years with the same guys, and you're dialed in. Florida State is really piecing together each year, and they're competitive, right? But when it comes down to the nitty gritty, are they going to be able to put them over the top? And right, I'm not sold on them yet. And obviously, I'm a Florida fan, so there's a little bit of bias there. But based on those things, that's why I'm not sold.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with you there. And look, you can only get lucky. And look, I say lucky, but I think obviously Mike Norvell knows what he's doing in the portal. But you also really need the right players to go into the portal to even have the availability to get them. And if that doesn't happen, then it doesn't matter how good you can manipulate your way through the portal. If the players that you need simply aren't there, or that you just can't get them interested in you, you're going to have a hard time, right? Which is kind of where the 2024 class being ranked 6th and already having our quarterback, and I know that's a huge thing for Florida right now to have Lagway, for Florida State to already have their quarterback in the class for that year is going to be big, because we're going to have to do this whole song and dance routine of going into the portal to get a quarterback next year as well. AJ Duffy and Tate Rodemaker are not the guys, and I don't think that bringing in Luke Cromanhook, which is our 2024 top 10 guy at quarterback, he's not going to be ready. So we're going to have to be kind of where Florida was this year, where we got to get a guy in there that's going to be ready to give us some production at that position, to give Cromanhook time to be ready to take over.
Yeah, I think, look, the portal's been nice to you guys, but it's the same thing with the NFL. I don't think you can win a championship just off the portal. I think it's a key factor, but you got to build from the draft first. I think the Rams are a good example of that. They built up, they put together, they pieced together, and then bam, made some big moves and won it all. Now they're basically kaput, but they slowly pieced together, and you could be on that path, right? You kind of have your base, and then you fill in a few pieces. Let's see how it works. So, good stuff. Great way to end it. And $5 for a man, West Day, showing some love. Says, Jag, the dark horse of the AFC, coming for the Lombardi. Love you, brother. Steve, you're okay, huh? Nah, I love you, man. FSU, no, this year.
We love you guys.
More likes in here. And we do. Let's get to 100 likes before we close it down. Well, boys and girls, at an hour and a half, another great show for you guys, as always. I had an absolute blast. Steve, did you have fun, man?
Oh man, absolutely! I watched the cast with Soder and Allie all the way up until she signed off. Man, she was great, super knowledgeable. Obviously, her and Soder were the brains of the.
I wouldn't be surprised if those two are on the show next week and you and I no longer exist. So
I mean, it's basically we should just give the whole thing to them. Let's be completely honest. They were the marquee that I think everybody was here for.
We don't know what we're doing at all. I don't know. I'm surprised these guys hung out this long and watched us for as long as they did. Boys and girls, love you.
Well, March, we love you guys. You stick with us.
We appreciate the support. It's a love as always. Make sure you guys show some prayers and love for our man, Baby Lincoln. Love you guys as always. We should be good to go tomorrow for our live call-in show unless something comes up. But we have a good time with those. So make sure you guys give us a call live around 8 or 9. That hasn't have necessarily a locked-in schedule yet. But till next time, boys, I'm Sheldon.
And I'm Holly.
Boogity, boys. Hey, real quick, I forgot. We gotta plug our sponsors one last time. Shout out to Manscaped, who's the best in men's below the waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the performance package. Join over 7 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with their exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code, of course, HIGHTOP. Go clean your balls off, guys. See you later.
Later, guys.